it's a broken culture, it's a broken society, and hip hop is hurting things. But I also want to talk to you about something I've realized. Even if Black Americans are aware and know their history, right? And you can get Black conservatives who understand the history much more, who understand, the ills of the left and what the left has done. But still, in that regard, they bring to the conservative side the same bad habits that I was hoping Black conservatives would be abandoning. And what I'm talking about, number one, is conflict resolution. Black Americans do not know how to resolve basic conflicts. Everything has to turn into a fight. I hate you forever. You got to draw lines. It's like you're this gang or that gang. And you still see it happening in politics.
The Black community as a whole, I keep saying we in last place, but I really feel like we are placing ourselves in a very peculiar spot, because we are quick to blame everyone else for the things that are happening to us. We're quick to blame everybody for how they treat us. But how can you blame people for treating us the same way we treat ourselves?
We really need to talk about why the Civil Rights Act and every other law passed by liberals is not helping blacks evolve, but is actually destroying blacks. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel. So guys, let's get to this. So I want to talk about Black plight today, and we're going to talk about redlining and the present day. So, like in Florida, they have a place called Avon Park, and that was Avon Park, along with many other areas, especially in the north, like in Chicago, New York, and so forth, where it was shaped, and those areas are predominantly blacks, and they were shaped by redlining. So if you think about it, back then redlining created a lot of ghettos, and blacks really go through hard times. And I bring this up because during the 1964 on, and I say in the 60s and 70s, there was still, hardship, blacks finding it hard, and they implementing affirmative action, which didn't help blacks, because what it did was it made blacks go to elite schools and get jobs that they were not qualified for, because blacks weren't being taught this, or maybe it was too fast. The speed was just too much, especially certain curriculums. When I went to college, my weakness is math. I'm great with history, English. I love writing, even though I won't lie. Copilot is a huge help, and Grammarly, they're very big help. However, these are my strong points. My weak ones are math, maybe some science, even though science fascinates me. And I continue trying to learn science, like space and things like that, up till now. But this is where I think you'll find some blacks that do this, and then a lot that do not. So during the 60s and 70s, blacks were going through some hard times. But we're talking about 80s, 90s, 2020, and today, 2025, where basically, this is the God's honest truth, America is not a racist country. And I want to repeat that again. America is not a racist country. We just have people that exploit racism for their benefit. So it continues making blacks, because blacks will believe anything, especially when it's for blacks to become the victim. So blacks will believe anything. We could be manipulated into anything. And so far, we've been manipulated in so much that there is no growth. There isn't, the opportunities are all there, but for some reason, we don't see it. Okay. And the question is, are black families still trapped by those boundaries, or are they choosing those boundaries? That's the question I have. Are we choosing it? I pulled up some stuff here because I want to really talk about it. You know me, I like to pull up stuff and then go over what it is that I'm reading. Now remember, all of this is my perspective. However, most of the stuff I talk about are legitimate questions. Certain answers are legitimate, And it's discussions that really need to be talked about because people are afraid, especially like there's certain white people. Charlie Kirk was not afraid to talk about these things, and he was assassinated. So I'm going to continue talking about this because it is very important. Because yes, I am black and I see the downfall of blacks. Why we will be fourth in population by 2065 is because we're doing this to ourselves. Okay? So let me get to what I had wrote here. So there was an uptick in segregation, like 59% of areas are segregated. And then you have to ask yourself, is this because of income or identity? So here's my thing. I say blacks live in these certain neighborhoods where it's predominantly black because it's blacks and they feel comfortable. Because we keep throwing this racism and I'm afraid of the police and all this other stuff, we don't venture out. We don't go to different places. We don't learn different cultures. We are stuck in this one culture where we feel like the way we talk is normal, our behavior is normal. Candace always says something that it was very important. Conflict resolution. Blacks don't know how to resolve issues. And I always talk about this. Use the system. You don't have to be violent. We are violent. We are dangerous. People are afraid of us. And because if you say something or do whatever, we go into attack mode. We are ready to attack and go to jail for it. I'm telling you, I feel like we are the most uneducated people on the planet. That everybody else could come to America and succeed over us, and we continue staying at the bottom, and we're born here in America. So we should be succeeding here in America. Okay? We should not be failing. We should already own homes. I see some of the homes that blacks own in these certain areas, and it's in deplorable conditions because it says, if we don't care. Okay, so black families are disproportionately lower income due to their claimed generational exclusion from wealth building tools. I believe that was the case at one time, but today, no. And if families, and you know what the funny part is? You'll see black leaders talk about this, but nobody's helping black. The minute we get $1,000 in our hand, it is gone. I remember a girl got close to $1 million. The first thing she went and did was buy 3 cars. Then went and bought a house, lost it all, have nothing to show for it. Has nothing to show for it. So the money you give it right back to the people. You put it right back into the economy and you have nothing to show for it. Right now, like I said, I have about 7 credit cards. I keep my percentage at 30%. I had to learn this because at one time my credit score was like 400 something. And I remember my sister said, Mark, you're an idiot. How do you have a 400 credit score? And I was sitting there saying, as a grown man, I was saying that, you know what? That makes sense. Why do I have a 400 credit score? I'm doing something wrong. So I sat down and began, and I did it the hard way. I got one credit card that had an annual rate of, I don't know, it was like 175. It was a ridiculous number. And then I got, it was only a $300 credit limit, and I kept it. And I kept using it just to get gas and just build it and build it. Then I got into the 500s, and I remember then another credit card came. It was another crappy credit card, but I kept it. Then I was able to get a Capital One of their real low budget credit cards. It's like a platinum card. It's really nothing. You get, I think I only had $300 on that. But then I was disciplined. I kept following the method, following the process. And then before you know it, I hit into the 600s. Then my credit increased and so forth. Now I have about maybe so many credit cards. I could get store department credit cards. And I did that because I believed in learning and growing, evolving. something that I'm noticing that we are not doing. We are not evolving. Let me see. Economic clustering leads to racial clustering, not because of racism, but because poverty is sticky. So, racial clustering, I believe that is blacks, like Hispanics, so they all just get together in one area, all broke, all poor, which then creates more crime, because now the poor is gonna rob the poor. You know, I watched this one named Red, Sexy Red, brag about a guy she used to date robbing somebody so he could buy her a Valentine's gift. Now, I want you to think about it. You work hard. You work hard so you could pay your bills and live a decent life. Everybody's not rich like that, but they work hard so that they can have a decent life. They can pay bills, they can do whatever because they work hard for it. And then you get somebody to come take it off from you so they could get their girlfriend something. And that's insane. Okay. Some black families resist moving into predominantly white areas, fearing cultural isolation, microaggressions, or loss of community. Now, this is true because, and I believe that there's some whites that is afraid to let certain blacks come into the neighborhood because, once again, we are violent. And I'm not saying it to be funny. We are. We resolve our issues by fighting, attacking, stabbing, shooting, especially if it's black or white. Well, we're going to shoot you. We're going to kill. That's the truth. And sometimes you have to hear the truth. Blacks feel more comfortable in their own culture because they feel like that's the culture that, they can live by. So that's why you see no growth. That's why right now, every metric, blacks are at the bottom. And I'm not saying where we lead at in probably metrics would be maybe sports and things like that. But when it comes to fundamental metrics that we need to look at to see where blacks are at and how we can do better, we are failing. And the numbers don't seem to get better. We stay, even as we change our incomes to fit cost of living. So what do we call a cost of living increase and so forth, and more money is being poured in. So maybe it was at 30, now we go up to 35. We're still at the bottom because everybody else is rising. So that is something to really think about. And I don't know what it is with us, because we seem to, like Section 8, or we'll go into a nice thing. Section 8 was a big mistake. They'd make a whole area Section 8. Blacks will move in. The place looked like a war zone after a while. It's as if we don't care because it's not our responsibility. That's how we feel. Okay? I've hired many people. And I remember hiring this one guy. And I went up to him. Well, I didn't hire him, excuse me. I interviewed this one guy. And I remember asking him a question. Hey, are you ready? I got him to say, hey, are you ready? Let's begin the interview. And he said to me, give me a minute. I'm talking to somebody. So you already know he wasn't getting that job. But this is what I'm talking about. We are not prepared. We're not disciplined. We're not educated. It's getting bad. And I think that these so-called black leaders, the ones like Roland Martin and Mark Lamont Hill, Michael Eric Dyson, Tariq Nasheed, whatever his name is, these people really need to stop with their woe is me white people and systemic racism and really now go back to what it is that's really happening, because I think that they're doing black people a disservice. There's a lot of things that they should be working on that can probably get accomplished if we get a bunch of people together and fix these things so that we can start seeing blacks move from the bottom, always at the bottom, and now we can start seeing a rise. Okay? I'm not sure if it's too late to fix the population growth, because the Asian Americans are moving up strong, fast. and they come in very prepared. It makes no sense, like I said, that everybody else comes into this country, even the illegal immigrants. That's what's the really sad. Even the illegal immigrants come in here and they outshine us. And blacks that were born here, right here in America, like they didn't want to be called FBAs, foundational black Americans, are still sitting up here saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. And sitting at the bottom of the list. That's the sad part, and we really need to do something about it.
All right, call me crazy, but just my opinion. Whenever I hear someone use the term black fatigue, I think they're trying to say ghetto fatigue. See, I think people are sick and tired of ghetto black Americans in 2025, or just the past years, right? People have been sick and tired of the ghetto black American, myself included. But the ghetto black American and the so-called black American are not the same people. They may look alike, but they're not the same people. See, black Americans are not quick to blame Caucasians for everything. Black Americans live in peace. They are modest. They are well-spoken. They're talented. They're successful, hard workers, mature people, very responsible people, and they practice critical thinking. They love to live in peace. That's the so-called black American, right? The ghetto black American is the complete and total opposite of what I just described. See, again, ghetto black Americans love to blame Caucasians for everything. For some strange reason, they use the race card for all different types of situations. It's always race with these people. What's even crazier and disgusting and embarrassing is that they use slavery as some kind of example in why their lives suck. And to me, that's a major disrespect to the people who are actually experiencing that atrocity, slavery, and they're putting themselves in those situations as if they were there. Ridiculous. Nonsense. Again, people are tired of ghetto fatigue, not so-called black fatigue. Nobody likes a loser. And that's the so-called ghetto black American, a bunch of losers. They can't stay out of trouble. They make poor decisions constantly when it comes to their finances, their education, their relationships, their romantic relationships, a bunch of poor decision-making people. And they call it systemic racism. It's systemic poor decision-making. But they can't say that because they're a bunch of losers. They blame others for their actions. Ridiculous. But again, people are tired of ghetto fatigue, not black fatigue. I promise. Just my opinion.
This idea that modern ghetto black culture is actually a culture is a farce. It's not a culture. It's an aesthetic. Prior to the 70s, 80s, in ghetto black American communities, you did not see the debauchery and the scandal that you see in ghetto black communities today. That's because back then, being ghetto was not some sort of style or a sort of aesthetic. It was a condition of life. You were poor. But being poor didn't mean that you didn't have morals. It didn't mean that you didn't have dignity. And it didn't mean that you didn't have principles. Ghetto black Americans prior to the 70s, 80s still had standards. It's only been recently that we've convinced ourselves that ghetto black culture means having a bunch of babies all over the place, extreme poverty rates, stupid, low educational standards. Frankly, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Substance abuse. That has only been recently that we have made that into a cool aesthetic, and we're putting it in our movies. We're putting it into our music. At one point in time, you could not do that in ghetto black communities. You couldn't. The people wouldn't let you because being poor didn't mean having no social etiquette. It didn't mean having no social comportment. It did not mean devaluing human lives. We don't value each other's lives in ghetto black communities. We're killing each other. We're molesting each other. The girls are experiencing sexual abuse within their own households before the age of 16 years old. You could not do this stuff back then. This is new. It's not an aesthetic. It's not a culture, excuse me. Ghetto black culture is not actually a culture. It's an aesthetic. Ghetto black Americans prior to the 70s, 80s, somewhere around that era, they still had love of God, love of family, love of community, love of self, love of each other. They took care of each other. This new ghetto black culture, it's not a culture at all. And that is a hill that I will fight and die on and gladly rest in peace on.
So let's go over government dependency and why blacks are so drawn to this. So the welfare program, it created a perverse incentive. So by that, giving them, very low to free housing and, medical, this was what I call the socialist, pilot program on blacks, with the redlining, which started back then, but I think it became much bigger after the Civil Rights Act passed. And they knew that, blacks would be, because blacks were spread all over the place, that by creating this incentive, it keep blacks in their neighborhoods and dependent. And it discouraged them from working. That's why you see so many blacks high in unemployment, marriage, because blacks black women tend to get more if they were single or didn't have the baby father around. And we were very low in entrepreneurship. We're not disciplined, and basically not educated. So when we begin entrepreneurship, we tend to forget the fundamentals and we go straight for the materialistic things. And so we notice a lot of black businesses going down. Plus, I think the second problem is we call it black business, which I don't know what a black business is. I just know business. Okay. So I think it degrades an individual when they have to state black business as if, this is going to be something different or better. It's just a business. How you run that business makes it the best. You don't have to put black business or, because if we would have seen white business, then next, they would be called racist. We are acting like what we ask others not to do. You don't see Indian owned or Asian owned. Okay. You just see it's a business. I think also the other problem is that the government dependency program, which that's what I like to call it, aided these black individuals, and I'm telling you, it's funny if you're talking about passing on generational wealth. I've noticed black mothers pass on when their daughters get pregnant, and so forth, that the knowledge to get government assistance and to not really work. So it discourages young black girls and young guys from really accomplishing things and the reason why young black men are in it too is because in order to get all these benefits, you have to file for child support. A lot of black men fall victim to the child support laws, which needs to be revamped. Okay. Because a lot of it is not just destroying black men from getting really decent paying jobs, but it's also destroying them psychologically. Because what happens is, and I'm a victim of that also. So I don't want to be talking about this and acting like I'm not a victim of it. I too am a victim. I too play a role in this. And this is why I talk about it, because I've experienced it. I've put myself in it. And so now I can relate to others and talk to them about it. And hopefully they can resolve things in a better way so that they can spend time with their children and not walk away, something that, I did. So when a lot of fathers see that they have to pay child support and how much, and the mothers don't seem to be working with the fathers, it discourages them from being a part of that child's life, which causes a lot of boys to be raised by the mother and the grandmother and so forth, which now creates a lot of low testosterone boys. Not saying that anything is wrong with that. I'm just saying that we are witnessing a lot of men who should take that mantle of a man, and that's not happening. That is not happening. So that's just my perspective on the thing. Is this dependency culture and everything is what's causing a lot of problems today. I also wanted to talk about me, for instance. I think I talked about earlier how how I improved my credit score and so forth. So I remember at one point in my life I was homeless, and I had to really address this issue. I didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to believe that I was in that situation. And I got lucky because I started working for a major airline. So I got out of that, but I was then able to reshape my life and have it go in that direction for the better. Okay. And I wouldn't call this, I was homeless and all that stuff because of systemic racism and all that stuff. I just found myself making bad choices, and I was in a situation and I ended up losing everything. However, I call it systemic defiance. And I'm living proof, along with many others who found themselves at the bottom. And I remember I was at the bottom with, I swear to God, maybe just a nickel to my name. And I was able to defy those odds because I believed in myself. I created a strategy. And now, like I said, I have a very good credit score. I'm on the high end middle class, maybe a little up, income bracket. Okay. And sometimes you have to make tough choices. When I worked for the airline industry, I was really getting tired of flying in a fuselage. And I wanted to start something. I wanted to be a business. And I remember people telling me, you're stupid for leaving it, because we always become so complacent and we never believe in ourselves. And people who become successful and probably wealthy are the ones who take chances, who's not afraid, who's willing to risk it all. Those are the winners, because they're taking a gamble. And sometimes the gamble might not work out for you, but you don't quit. And then sometimes it does. So I took that gamble and became and was a success for me. And from that point on, I just live life, and I like to do things. I don't like to sit at home, but I can say that I'll probably never go broke. And so that being said, I bring that up because I want people to know that they're not a statistic. Okay. People should become a strategist. My story challenges every lazy assumption about Black resilience, poverty, and upward mobility. Okay. My story challenges every lazy assumption about Black resilience, poverty, and upward mobility. So it can be done. You just have to become that strategist. Sit down, look at your life, and then figure out how you're going to accomplish those next steps. How you're going to accomplish defeating those obstacles in your life, so that you can become a success. Or even not to be wealthy, but just to be, to still be a success, basically. To say that you set some goals, you set some priorities, and you jotted them down, and you followed those priorities and became a success. So it can be done once you believe in yourself. Okay, so I believe in myself strongly, and I believe that everybody else, if they just get out of that ghetto mentality, that victim mentality, just push that out of the way and start looking at life in a different light. Start learning different cultures. We're always talking about, why don't you learn our culture? But we're not willing to learn anybody else's culture. That's why we're so ignorant to everything else. We think twerking and where this and that is the life, and it's not. And while Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, are failing and losing, everybody else is succeeding. They're growing. And we're going to realize it when we notice that everybody else has passed us by and they're doing well. And we're still failing in high school and literacy. We're still leading in high school dropout and literacy. What else? Prison population, still dependent on the government, and still being manipulated by the liberal Democrats. Still being manipulated, believing everything they say and falling for it. And then before you know it, you have nothing. You have nothing. And then when you go to them to say what happened, they're going to say, you should have done better with your life. That's what's going to happen. But don't take it from me. Wait. Just wait, because your children will go through the suffering, not theirs. People like Nancy Pelosi, she's stolen enough money to set her family up. Maxine Waters, she's set. She don't have to worry about you guys. She's going to talk like she cares. She hasn't done nothing. Compton still is still people in poverty. Okay? All of them. Clyburn in South Carolina, that guy is filthy rich. I don't see him going into the ghettos trying to talk people into doing better with their lives. He won't step foot. I don't see Al Sharpton. I don't see Mark Lamont Hill. I don't see Roland Martin. You know who I see Roland Martin hanging with? White people. He does not hang with black people. He don't live around there. He don't live around other blacks. You won't find him in the ghetto. Let that sink in.
That's the problem with us. We want to just survive. We don't want to be ahead of things. Because being ahead of things take a lot of work. Mm-hmm. That's just what it is. Especially when you black and you coming from nothing. You coming from poverty. It takes you being goddamn the hardest working person in your family. Also, you're going to have to wear the crown in your family. Niggas going to come to you for everything. You get what I'm saying? So you going to wear, the first person that changed your bloodline, you going to wear a heavy crown in your whole family. That's just what it is. You better get used to it.
We all play this victim mentality, but whenever it comes on a chance to change it, back from where you grew from, we move away from it instead of changing it. We leave it on to somebody else and saying, hey, somebody else fix it instead of us. But I'm going to complain about it while I'm sitting over here, but I'm not going to do nothing to change it. I'm just going to move over here to Katie, and I'm going to send my kid to Katie.
Mm-hmm. Because
it's already better.
It's easy to do that.
And I ain't got to do no work. Yeah. Or you can send your kid to Katie, but go back to your hometown and say, hey, how can I help fix this system? But we don't do that as a whole.
Yes, that is exactly what I want black people to do, and here's why. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example to kind of prove my point. So let's say you're riding a bike out in the city, you accidentally go on the road, a car hits you, and you break your leg. So then obviously you go to the doctor, you're in the doctor's office, and then the doctor tells you, hey, you're going to have to let it sit for about 5 to 6 months so it can heal. And then after that, you're going to need another 5 to 6 months of physical therapy to get back to where you were. And then you say to the doctor, but that person broke my leg, they should fix my leg. The doctor's like, well, that person can't really fix your leg. Sure, they can give money for the doctor's appointment, but you're still going to have to wait and let your leg heal, and then you are going to have to do the physical rehab to get yourself back in shape. That person cannot move your body and control your body and do the rehab for you, no matter what they did to you. So I say that to say, no matter what white people did to us at those times, right, we need to fix our situation now. It's not up to them, right? So we need to fix our problems. Okay, so now let's say you're starting to go to your physical therapy sessions, right? So instead of actually doing physical therapy, you're sitting there complaining about the person that did that to you each physical therapy session. Are you actually going to get your body back to where you need it to be? No, because you're not doing the necessary therapy to get there. Same thing here. Instead of us working and building on ourselves, we are too busy complaining about the past, what happened, how we were treated, and it's not really working for us. Like so many of us will put so much energy into complaining about redlining, systematic racism. We won't even talk about the fact that blacks sold each other into slavery. We just like to pretend that didn't happen and just act as if the white people were the only people involved. Newsflash, they weren't, right? But that's a whole other topic. My point is there are so many skills and so many ways to make money in America right now, and most of us have no clue about 75% of them. You can make money on YouTube in 30 different ways. You can make money on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can do online sales. You can do crypto. You can trade. You can invest. You can work remote closing jobs. You can work customer service. There are so many different ways to make money in America, and so many people don't know. So in that way, we are actually ignorant to the amount of opportunity that's actually here. And we need to become less ignorant to the amount of opportunity and start taking advantage of it.
That was a great analogy that was presented. But yeah, so I'm going to continue talking about this. I'm not going to stop. Blacks need to evolve. Stop being complacent. We're failing. We're failing miserably. And it's by the time we realize that, you know, these so-called black leaders and politicians have played us and lied to us, it's going to be too late. So stop playing the victim. Stop having that ghetto mentality. Start observing your life. Start making good choices. Work on your credit, because black leads in bad credit. Okay. So let's work on that. Let's fix whatever's wrong, and let's start educating ourselves. Education is the key. And when we educate ourselves, we begin to make better choices. We become more focused on what's important in our lives and not the silliness. And as soon as somebody says something that you don't like, you're ready to fight and attack and kill, because that's what we do. We shoot and kill, or we shoot, stab, and then kill. Malcolm X said the same thing, that we have a problem with stabbing and shooting. So this problem began in the 60s. As soon as they opened that door and said equality for all, we fell. And I blame a lot of these leaders. I blame Martin Luther King and so forth for our demise right now. Because, like I said, we are not winning. We are losing miserably. And it's looking real bad. And I'm getting tired of going on these social media sites like Scoops and Twitter or what's the other thing, TikTok, and all you see is black people fighting with, especially young black girls fighting each other on Scoops. They get y'all butt naked. Now, don't get me wrong, you see some white people, white ghetto hood rats doing the same thing, but the majority is us. And the reason why I focus on us is because we're the one doing all the crying and saying that, you know, we're being mistreated and they're harassing us and they're this and that. Yet we're the ones attacking, killing, shooting, leading homicide, prison population, robbery. I mean, you name it, we lead it, and they're not good categories. So we need to really take a step back, adjust, and start making better choices. For those moms that act ghetto hood rat too, that have little children, and you're acting ghetto hood rat saying to your kid, shut the fuck up and all this other stuff, take a moment and reevaluate your life so that your children can grow up with a better life. But once again, let me let you guys go. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I definitely will talk to you soon. Peace.